Greetings and salutations, everybody. It's Dave Duford here at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents like you become top producing insurance professionals. And today continues our monthly interview series of videos where I interview top producing agents and agencies to get to the bottom of why they've become so successful in their respective niche. And today I have Mr. Justin Brock on the line. Say hello to everybody, Justin.
Hello. How is everybody?
Hopefully everybody's doing well. And I want to tell you a little bit about Justin before we get started with the question. So in case you haven't met Justin, after leaving the Marine Corps at 25 years old, followed his father into the insurance industry. And though he only has been in the Medicare industry for 5 years, believe it or not, he has amassed a client base surpassing 10,000 people. We will get to the bottom of how he was able to do that because I'm interested too. And though he is licensed in 30 plus states, on top of that, 85% of his clients are all in Northeast Mississippi. He started the Medicare Coach Facebook group last March with the intent to give Medicare agents a free exchange platform on ideas on how to sell Medicare successfully. And we're going to link to the description below. So if you're interested to check out what Justin offers, click that link. So there you have it. So Justin, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's get started. Why don't you kind of tell us about how you got into the insurance business, a little bit about yourself, and take it from there.
Yeah, so of course I was in the Marine Corps, joined at 18, and re-enlisted one time because at 22, 21, was around just before Obamacare was signed, and my dad was an independent agent. And he was talking about how he didn't know if it was a good time to get out and come into the industry at that time because he didn't know what was going to happen. So I re-enlisted. I just had a son, stayed in. Then towards the next end of it, he said, hey, turns out didn't affect anything as badly as we thought for agents. So you should probably get out and try to do insurance yourself. So at that moment, my stepsister had already come on working with him, and I got out and made the team 3 at that point. And that's when we really started going from him being an independent agent up to building an agency with a presence, both online and physical, and building an agency, actually hiring people and scaling up. And it's just been a really, really good ride, been a blast. I've always, my hesitancy in coming into insurance was coming from the Marine Corps thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to be exciting, but I've loved it. Love meeting agents, love meeting clients. It's just a very, very, really, really cool, industry in my opinion, because you get people from all different walks of life coming in, and you meet some of the most interesting people on the planet, I think, in our industry, and you get to help people and make a lot of money. So,
right. So what, you sell Medicare supplements, correct?
Yes. About 95% Medicare supplement.
Okay. So what got you into Medicare supplements versus other product lines? Was this what your father was doing prior to you getting into this, or?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I know Zoom does
okay.
that video thing.
Yeah. No
yeah. So he actually started out at AIG in like 1990, and they had a Medicare supplement at the time, and he cut his teeth on like the first year or so, would go around to that book that they gave him, and he would find some money, try to save on money on their Medicare supplement, capture the savings and put it into life or something else. And anyway, eventually they quit offering a Medicare supplement at that time. And so he had to go independent. He felt like if he didn't go independent, he was going to not be able to, he couldn't continue doing what he was doing. So so I was a teenager around when I really started seeing the success from that. And you could kind of see us climb from, poverty into the middle class pretty quickly. So I always believed that the insurance industry was great. Never really thought I would do it, when I was younger. And didn't know if I'd be as good at it as him. I just thought maybe he was really good at it, it's been great. Turns out I am pretty good at it. So
So I got a quick question for you, kind of curious. So you come from a family that you're essentially a second generation insurance salesperson. Did you find that how did your father impress upon you the insurance business? Was there any direct motivation or encouragement to get into it? Or was it like, hey, this is what I do. If you're interested, come along. What was that kind of interaction between you two?
Because he was more of just, an independent agent working from home. He always told me stuff like, be a lawyer, be a doctor, join the military, he'd have these ideas and go to college, that kind of stuff. So he would say those things. And I completely considered that stuff and just kind of spazzed out on going to college. I mean, I tried the college thing and I have a degree, but it took me like 10 years to get it. So just didn't really enjoy that and didn't want to do any other stuff. So as far as his impression on me, the insurance industry, it was really the money side is all I saw from it. I saw that you can make a really comfortable living in it. And so the impression there was, hey, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a lawyer. I don't want to be in the military forever. It's not for me forever with a family. The insurance industry sounds like a good thing to get out and earn a decent living. The biggest advantage it gave me, though, was coming out, and this is what I think a lot of people are lacking. It's one of the reasons I started Medicare Coach, was I was able to come out and start getting on the phone and selling, but having someone there to tell me what I was doing wrong and connect me with the next help me get connected with the next prospect initially. And so that helped me learn how to do what it is that makes us money. Whereas a lot of people have trouble with that first step, finding out how to get on the phone with a prospect, how to close that prospect, and how to answer their questions. And, so that's really the advantage that it gave me, definitely.
Yeah, definitely a leg up with the perspective from, your dad being in it is definitely a good thing, right. Which is, why you do the Medicare Coach Facebook group, I'm sure, to kind of help those new agents coming along. So that kind of gets me to my next question here. Being in the Medicare business and being as successful as you are, why do you think an agent should consider selling Medicare supplement insurance? What do you think the advantages are?
So on the med sub side, it's twofold. It's the residual aspect. You have a lot of people coming from different lines. If you're coming from life only, definitely you'll see that it's the residual that gets people to want to start kind of diversifying their book to have a little bit of gravy coming in. If they're coming from home and auto, I guess it's just one other thing for them to fish for another lead source. But for me, it's the residual income. And then on the med sub versus Medicare Advantage has to do with lack of necessary service work. You don't have with med sup, it's just, you get somebody signed up and typically they're really happy with it. Their doctors aren't turning them away. They don't ever go to a neurologist or neurosurgeon and then try to run a test on them, and their Medicare Advantage plan might say, well, why are you doing that test? Whereas the med sup just approves it, and so you don't very rarely get any kind of service work. And when you do, it's normally pretty easy to answer what's going on there.
So you mentioned Medicare Advantage. I didn't think to ask you this, but I think it's important to cover. A lot of agents I've talked to think that they've got to do both supplements and Advantage. And why I haven't asked you yet, it sounds as if all your business is supplements. I wonder if you could take a second to describe, do you sell Medicare Advantage? And then if you don't, should other agents consider just doing supplements and doing away with Advantage? Just kind of explain why that may or may not be a good idea.
Yes. Medicare, we do at Medicare Advantage. This year, we didn't do hardly any. It was a huge sub year. And a lot of that has to do with when we focus on a market that we're saturating. There's not a lot of great Medicare Advantage plans in that market. And we do try to focus, even when I target on Facebook ads and stuff, when I target areas, I target rural areas where there aren't Medicare Advantage plans. A lot of that has to do with people coming in and switching them, whether or not it's better for them. Medicare Advantage just seems to get switched around each year. Med Sup, harder to switch because somebody might get to where they can't qualify health-wise, so they're going to stay on the books longer. I think that it's good over time to to develop to where you're writing Medicare Advantage, a lot of agents seem to be coming in on the Advantage side first. I think that's odd. I think that's definitely contrary to how it was several years ago. Most agents want to come in on Med Sup because it's easier, and then get a book. And then as time goes on and they find prospects that they can't write Medicare Advantage, or they can't write a Med Sup too, they start thinking, well, I sure wish I could do Medicare Advantage. Then you take the AHIP and learn that side of it. Also, we started doing the AHIP primarily because we sell a lot of Part D drug plans. So we do a lot of that, a lot of Part D. I mean, it's, when I say our book is primarily Med Sup, I'm not really counting Part D, because Part D is actually probably about 25 or 30% of it, if you included that. But we just kind of include that as the add-on to a Med Sup.
So like I said in the intro, you stated that you've sold, and this is primarily, I'd imagine, Medicare supplements in 5 years, 10,000 policies. And to make it even more interesting, you did all this in Mississippi. Of course, I'm thinking, I didn't even know there was 10,000 people in that part of Mississippi. Just a joke. I live in Tennessee, so there's very little I can actually. So yeah, how were you able to do it? Kind of paint the picture to the agent interested to sell Medicare, or maybe somebody who already is. How were you able to get this level of volume of supplements?
Right. So first, I want to say it's the 10,000 Med Sups was sold between us and 3 other agents as we built it. We now have 2 offices, but our primary office is up to 6 agents. But when I was doing that, I didn't want to say I sold all 10,000 myself, but we brought it in 5 years from a lower number to 10,000 plus. We have over 12,000 now. But when I came in, there was around 2,000 active, and it's just skyrocketed. I think that the biggest factor there was taking a well-known name that my dad had built, a well-known name, not extremely well-known, but well-known enough where he had a client base, and then amplifying it. What I did was come in and learn Facebook and learn online advertising sources, and started amplifying that name around. And then also at that same time, we made it to where we opened up a physical presence office. And as you amplified that and made it known that you had an office, we started getting walk-in traffic in AEP. Outside of AEP, we hired more agents so we could call these Facebook leads and sell. And it happened relatively quickly. I mean, my first year or so, and this is kind of backtracking, but the reason I wanted to get into the Facebook side and marketing and selling over the phone was I was out running down mailers initially. And, as interesting and fun as that is, anybody that's done it knows they don't want to do that until they're 65 or 70 years old. I mean, that's just it's not where it's at. You can make good money at it, but you don't want to do that forever, So it worked. I was doing really well at it. But whereas running down mailers where I could have a really good week and sell 10 or 15 policies, when I started really amassing Facebook leads, and initially I was the only one selling the Facebook leads, there were weeks where I was selling 50, 60. And then there was one week I sold 72 policies over the phone from Facebook leads only. And so it's just such an amplification to be able to get that many prospects and get on the phone with them over and over and over. And it's just about mastering talking to them over the phone, which is actually easier than people think, because there's so many people who are getting called by foreigners or people who don't speak like them, or don't know how to answer rebuttals or aren't educated enough. When you're educated in Medicare and you get on the phone and you sound like the people you're calling, which is why I try to focus on the South, because obviously I have a little bit of an accent. I stay in that range, and it's not really that hard. You just get on the phone, you tell them who you are, you sound confident in what you're doing. Hopefully on the Facebook side, you've already got them watching a video of you or something educational, so you have somebody who's at least semi-interested in what you're saying. And then you start the education process, they're impressed, and then you rewrite their Medicare supplement. It's just replicating that process over and over and over again.
Right. So let's talk about that. So you mentioned leads. I think that's a good next question to ask. So where do you get leads as a new Medicare supplements agent in the beginning? and what should be the goal from where to get them in the long term?
Yeah. So yeah, the hardest part in getting into Medicare, and this always depends on, where you're coming from. A lot of people kind of seem to try to make it sound like it's super easy, but there's really two methods in the beginning. If you're somebody coming in who has no money, maybe has mouths to feed in their house already, there's only two ways to get started, and one is on the phone and one is door to door. And so, my preference obviously at this point would be the phone, but in the beginning, I honestly think it's easier to do business reply mail drops. You can use a vendor, or you can actually go and set your own up. It's pretty easy to set your own up with the post office, and cut the middleman out on the mail, because there's not, some of them are really good. I mean, I've used some mail groups, and a lot of it just depends on the data. So sometimes by the time you buy a data list and you set up the mail group, you're spending just about as much. But I like the idea of doing the mail for Medicare, going door to door, and just being very well dressed, well mannered, nice, and polite, and getting in the house. And it definitely helps if you can learn how to sell a little bit of life insurance in the beginning, because selling Medicare alone in the beginning is rough. There's not a ton of money in it. Medicare money is in the long term. It's the marathon. But if you're getting in the house and you're selling, you say you're 1 in 6 med subs you sell, you're selling a final expense policy to, that's padding your pocket, so you're able to, final expense, and you can get into selling dental or cancer policies, things like that. And, the other method works too. It would be the phone sales. The hard part with the phone sales is it's discouraging in the beginning, because I think there's actually a higher threshold to getting someone comfortable with you over the phone than there is if you can just knock on the door and convince them to let you inside. Because they can hang that phone up, but when you're in their face, if they're nice people and you look polite, they want to be nice, because people are genuinely most people are good people, and they want to be nice to you and hospitable, especially in the South, by the way.
We have that advantage. There's a lot of nicer people down here. Sorry, guys from the North.
They are. I mean, they'll bring you in and cook you dinner and all kinds of stuff. But the phone thing, the phone side, if you're going to start off that way, there's a guy in Medicare Coach, Mike Gillum. I like to bring him up because he's in that beginning phase, and he's just somebody who you can see that is really persistent in doing it over the phone. He understands that it is a numbers game. You just have to call. And in the beginning, you're going to have some good prospects that will talk to you that you won't close because you won't know what questions to answer. But as you listen to your calls and remember what questions people ask, you research those more. You go on Medicare Coach. And I'll tell you what, when you get into those underwriting calls and you're in a pickle and you don't know how to answer a question, Medicare Coach group is great for answering real-time underwriting questions, real-time information. It's like I'll even go in there and be like, who takes this, and I'm supposed to be the expert, but there are people on there answering me, right away. You'll get 3 or 4 people that'll answer you in, seems like 30 seconds.
So if you look at a new agent, kind of building on this question, Justin, do you think new agents should target what we call the turning 65 or the new to Medicare market, or the I've already got Medicare, but my premium's gone up and I want to see if I can get a better deal? What do you think is best, easiest, most profitable? If there's, if one is better than the other, what do you think would be best to start with?
I would say you're going to find that there's pros and cons to both. The pro, obviously, on turning 65 is there's no underwriting. The con is everybody is calling them. I think that if you're calling over the phone, you would have an advantage with turning 65. If you're going door to door via mailer or something like that, you're going to have an advantage with the underwritten market. The disadvantage there would be that when you're a new agent, probably the bulk of the knowledge. A lot of people think, it's so hard to learn Medicare, but the bulk of the knowledge in being a great Medicare agent is in learning the underwriting criteria from each company. And the same thing with being a final expense agent. I mean, I don't do enough final expense. And when I talk to like a final expense guru like you or somebody, it's amazing. Like they'll know exactly what company takes what, certain cases. And Medicare's the same way. When you're getting into Med Sup, you're going to have, you're going to know that Aetna TPA companies like Union, Security, and Puritan would be your go-to for mild COPD and emphysema or things like that. You start knowing things like that. And so the knowledge base would be the hard part on the underwritten side. But if you're going door to door, I'd say learn that stuff. And then there's tools like this new one, EBI-IQ, and then the CSG quote engines have some underwriting filters that help. Now, and over time, technology will probably completely replace having to know all that stuff. They'll just give you the answer. but it's a work in progress there. So right now it's all about knowing your stuff, reading your health questions, reading your underwriting guides, studying it. And on the Turn 65 side, it definitely on the phone is going to help. If you're an American starting out calling, and you're very polite and knowledgeable, and you follow that whole Jordan Belfort, you got 30 seconds to make an impression over the phone. You call them and you say, hey, you don't lie to them and sell them penny stocks, but you do call them and say, I'm Justin Brock. If there's one thing I know, it's Medicare. I eat, sleep, live, and breathe Medicare, and I want to help you make decisions in your Medicare. At this point, I'm not even trying to sell you anything. I just want you to run any questions you have by me and see if I'm a valuable resource. And when you find a prospect that will go back and forth on the Turn 65 side, I mean, there's so many of them that are confused. And once they know that you can answer those questions and that you're nice and polite and easy to deal with, you can close those Turn 65s over the phone. But door to door, I don't know if Turn 65 is the way to go. I mean, I guess you could do it that way too. I never did that. Never did Turn 65s door to door. When I did my mailers, it was all underwritten.
Right. So back to a point you made earlier about in a sense, cash flowing, right? Because of as well as Medicare provides a passive income, if there is any with selling supplements, is cash flowing on your lead investment to make it lucrative so you can sustain. So what's a realistic timeline to get a livable passive income from Medicare if you go all in, if you're 100% committed?
I mean, I think that the standard for the industry is 24 months, especially if you're taking advances, because, and I don't want to say you're not going to make any money for 24 months, but to get, I use the family of four mentality. You got these guys that are trying to leave a factory job, or firefighters, or things that just jobs that they decide, or like when I came out of the military, things that are just not conducive to a good family environment over time. It really wears on you physically. So if you're coming into the industry, hopefully you have a little bit of money saved up. That really helps. But you have to believe in it, and you have to work hard. It's not easy, especially those first 2 years. But I'd say 24 months, because let's say you're taking a 9-month advance. Some companies are even doing an 18-month advance on MedSup, which is pretty secure on MedSup. There's if you know what you're doing and you're persistent and you take care of your clients, there's not as many chargebacks in MedSup, it seems. As long as you're not putting bad business on the books, calling Turning 65 7 months out and writing things like that. But the persistency is good, and so the passive income will be there. Well, 24 months in, you now have a full year's worth of renewals typically, because normally people aren't taking an 18-month advance; they're doing 9 to 12. So 12 months in, you're starting to see the renewals from the first month. But the first month you renew, so you weren't writing as much. But by the time you're 24 months in, you've now amassed the renewals from the full first year. And then every month after that 4th month, you're picking up the renewals from the 13th month and then the 14th month. And so it's like, that's when you really start to see your income grow. So it is a 24-month thing. Like I said before, definitely putting in the ancillary policies or final expense annuities. If you can do any of that in the meantime, it can really help with those first couple of years. But you'll get addicted to that too. And then even in the third year, you'll have to sell both because you'll be addicted to the income.
Yeah. So that's the kind of question I wanted to ask you, is because there's different people look at this differently. I'm generally, personally, when I train agents, I'm all about laser focus, become a specialist at a product, because it's overwhelming enough to learn something, even as simple as Medicare supplements. Like you said, there's underwriting, different carriers, so on and so forth. But there is a point to be made, like you said, the cross-sell of the products to enhance your cash flow and make it a little bit easier. So I'm kind of curious, where do you stand on cross-selling in general? Is it something you should do right away? Is it something you should wait after a period of time? Explain your belief on that.
In Medicare, I think that that there are a few products that are really easy to learn right away, and especially after you start building a little bit of a book, you can go back and add on products and call your book when you're having slow periods. I would say dental isn't just an obvious add-on. There's a few dental, vision, and hearing products out there that if you're selling turning 65s, it's just an obvious thing. I mean, a lot of these people are losing that benefit anyway. And a lot of people say, I don't like dental, insurance because it has this cap. Well, the one that they've just had for 40 years from their employer also had a cap. It's the same concept, and they want it, and it depends on the person. A lot of times the products that you sell might not be the one that you would buy personally, because maybe I think, well, it depends. Like if I have a higher income, so $1,000 dental policy might not be appealing to me, but for somebody else that doesn't plan for that sort of thing, it's different. It's the same thing with burial insurance. I'm not buying a burial policy, but you're going to run across people that need a final expense policy because they're in that income bracket. They're not good at preparing and budgeting. It's why the Dave Ramsey mentality doesn't work for everybody, because some people don't prepare for those things. So I'd say final expense is probably the second easiest thing to cross sell, because it's easy to understand, and there's people that need it, and there's people that are losing that life insurance when they come off. And final expenses, if you get just the bare bones final expense, somebody that's perfectly healthy coming off a group plan, losing their $50,000 policy, and then you quote them, 10, 15, 20,000 final expense at that time. I would say a realistic number of people who have become your customers already for Medicare, or have basically agreed to do business with you on that. You quote six of them a final expense policy, you'll sell one. That's what I've seen. That's realistic. Now, that's not hard pushing. That's just being a good agent and saying, hey, you might be losing this, we're running at time, you'll get 1 in 6. 1 in 6 on that really boosts your income, especially when you start doing volume. And then the third product would be cancer. We do a decent amount of lump sum cancer, especially if you're out there selling Medicare Advantage. It's just an obvious thing. But even on MedSup, you sell a $10 or $15, $20,000 lump sum cancer for travel, lodging, prescriptions, because even with Part D, you have the donut hole, which is going away, but you still have some high out of pocket for prescriptions. So those lump sum diagnosis policies, we write a lot with Aetna on that. Those are just some good add-ons. And dental, we were at one point with like a 40% attachment rate on dental, vision, and hearing. It's probably dropped now to 25 or 30%, but it's still, a huge boost, because, we might bring in an extra $200 per dental policy first year, and that adds up.
So what characteristics do you think, Justin, does it take to be a successful Medicare supplement agent? What do you look for when you work and hire agents or help them in your Medicare Facebook group?
So I like people who know how to talk to people. I like people who are polite and well-versed in the art of conversation. And I don't mean like studiously, some people are just that way because they've been brought up that way. You can teach some of those things, but if somebody already knows how to talk to people and is confident in themselves and their ability to do things, not Medicare at first, but anything, then that makes them good. A lot of times, we've hired people who were bartenders or who sold other things, dental equipment websites, things like that. If they've sold anything before, That's great. We've also hired people who were captive agents, like Bankers Life agents and things, because they're already they're great because they're already versed in Medicare. You're just showing them the way. And then we have hired, it's all walks of life. But the art of conversation, I think, is the most important thing. Second most important thing is persistency and the desire to have a long-term income, not a what can I make right now. Something that instantly turns me off to somebody is if they come in and we offer a base to our in-house agents, but it's small. It's not. I mean, I can't offer you $40,000 a year starting out base. I mean, we'll go bankrupt. But we start somebody out, at least with 300 to 500 a week, so that they have some expenses. They're not having to go out there and lie, cheat, and steal. And in turn, of course, we're taking a bigger cut of their commission because that's the way an agency works, and they get access to leads and all that sort of stuff. But when I am interviewing someone and they say they are complaining about the base, and they say, well, I remember one guy I interviewed, and he said, well, this place over here, and it was some sort of factory or something where you'd never make more than this probably, but he said they're offering me 35,000, and I'm like, well, if that's what you need, you go take it. But I'm telling you that 18 months in, you'll be making that, and you'll never make less than that for the rest of your life. But there's people like that.
Yep, you can't fix some lines of thought, that's for sure, unfortunately.
Right.
So next question, excuse me. Next question here is to kind of envision to the aspiring Medicare supplement agent who may be wondering, what is it like to go in and sell someone, let's say face-to-face or even over the phone? Mm-hmm. Is this something in a walk of life, or if you picture this, that they can do this on their own without any supplemental coaching or mentorship from someone like you? Or there are some people who think, well, yeah, if I have Justin help me, then there's going to be some kind of cost to it. What's your thoughts on that as far as getting somebody up and running, approaching and doing that first presentation, and what's in it for them and what they should be concerned with?
Right. I think it goes back to the art of conversation, but if they're able to, if you have the capacity to learn a concept, which 99% of people do, and you have the ability to just converse openly with someone and impress them at your, if you're a young person who's ever talked to an elderly person and they seem to be impressed with your existence, you can sell Medicare. And that was something I was really concerned with coming in. I was like, oh, I'm young, you're talking to old people, they're not going to trust me. But that wasn't true. It was actually the reverse. I looked so young that they were impressed that I wasn't a hoodlum, or you know what I mean, because they might have this perception of like the millennial generation as being bad, and when you're not, it's like it gives them hope for society.
Well, I have to jump in here because I can't help but to agree. I mean, I was 27 when I started selling Final Expense, and you think the same things too, but the thing is, as you get older, as you have children, you see younger kids, or even people younger than you, when you see them work hard and they're working towards something, it's inspiring. You want to give them their business. It's funny, you get older, you start to recognize that it's actually a good thing. As much trash talk as the boomers do about millennials and how lazy they are, when they see one that's working and making something of themselves, it's like, wow, I want to be a part of that, So yeah, for all you young guys out there, trust me, that is a huge thing you've got in your advantage, is if you work hard. The older people will see that and they'll like it.
Yeah, hardworking youth is an extreme advantage especially in the senior market. I probably nowhere else. A lot of people would think if I'm young and I'm working a job, I got to work really hard because I'm young and I got to put in the years. In the senior market, probably escalates how quickly. I'll tell you what helped me, and I actually wrote an article on Medium about veterans coming in the insurance industry. Being a veteran and being young, sometimes you would get like a guy that I would meet with that was a veteran, wearing his Vietnam hat or something like that, and they might be a little bit standoffish at first, and you're real nice to them. And then if I could bring up the veteran thing in any way and like talk, all of a sudden they open up and they're like completely different. But so that helped me. So I've actually written an article about how more veterans should consider the senior market insurance world, because it gives them a little credibility, more so than a degree even, because, the boomer generations out there, or the Fox News watchers, if you will, they've lost hope in the institution of education. So if you have military service, or if you were a cop or a fireman or a civil servant, but not even that, if you're just a hardworking young person, you can get past that, and by being well dressed, you can overcome if you already have some tattoos. I don't want to mess any of you guys up, but don't get them if you don't have, not visibly anyway, because it makes it harder to get past it. But if you just look like a nice, young man that's well dressed, or not young man or young woman, if you're well dressed and you're well spoken and you just appear to care about them, I think youth is an advantage. Not to mention the fact that if you start young, like the sky's the limit no matter when you start, because you can work harder and make more money. But if you start young, geez, you can just build and build and build and make a fortune.
Yeah, I'll add on top of that, Justin. The one thing for you guys that are in our age group, mid 30, even 40s, all the way down to 20s, the average insurance agent is 57, 58 years old. These guys have been grinding their whole lives, and they're getting close to retirement, guys. Like people get involved in the insurance business, not to work until they're 70 or 75, much less 65. And so this is the ripest opportunity in a long time to get into this business, because your major competition, which really isn't a big deal anyway, you're your own worst competition. They're all getting ready to retire. There's going to be a glut of need for selling all kinds of insurance, Medicare and whatnot. And, I've got a guy right now, he's like 20 and he's killing it. I'm thinking, man, I started when I was 27, but geez, 10 years from now, this guy's going to be making huge money. If he just stays on the dime and keeps working hard, and just like the old guys that look at us, it's cool to see that, so it's just so much opportunity.
Yeah. We got a couple of guys in the group. I'll give them a shout out. Will Thompson and Kyle Ray, that came to Tupelo and met with me, and I don't know what they're like 21, 22, 23, but just hard work and grind and making it happen. They're on the final expense side. I was trying to help them learn Medicare and stuff. And they're those kind of people. Just, it was baffling. And I'm only 30, but when I was sitting down with them and just seeing what they're already doing at their age, I'm like, I don't think I was emotionally mature enough at 21 and 22 to be doing what they were doing. So, it's never really too early to start. And, and of course you have to be old enough to get an insurance license, but that's it.
No, people will take you at face value. That's one of the greatest things that I didn't recognize, is that, like you said, you're so right. Present yourself as presentable, talk decently, and be concerned about your client's welfare, no matter your age. Even if you're young, sky's the limit, man. It's great. So let's ask another question here. Let's imagine you get a guy who does well with Medicare supplements. He starts to grow his passive income. He's self-sufficient from it. How does the benchmark for success look like as you start to level up, or as you start to grow that business? What do you do personally in your business to establish what success looks like, and how you advise other agents?
Of course, success in anything is all in how you view it and what you want out of it. There's different people in the group who have different measures. I keep reverting back to the group because you learn so much about it from communicating with different people. And just like how you've been doing these interviews for a long time, I'm sure you've learned so many different things about different people and what their view of success is. There are people in the group that have absolutely taken the idea of being an independent agent out of their house to the maximum. And these are people who are making, $300,000, $400,000 a year with no employees, working out of their house. And that's pretty awesome. What other industry can you work in your underwear from your home, make $300,000 a year without any employees?
all that underwear agent stuff is actually true in the industry.
It's true, and it's getting more so. As it becomes more there's more information out there that it's possible, and so more people try it, and the people who are persistent and put the time and the effort and the energy in, it's not easy, but it gets easier. It gets easier over time, because then the referrals come in, and that's what people don't understand is the referrals are, you get to a point when you didn't do any lead drops and you still closed as many policies this week as you would have had you done a lead drop. So that's
imagine out there, guys. It's one thing to sit in your underwear and call leads. Imagine sitting around, not even working, and the leads call you. That's what referrals do after a couple of years. It's crazy, and
it's persistent. You'll be thinking you're going to be hitting a slow rut, and all of a sudden, you just get referral heaven somehow. It's just feels like divine intervention or something. But it's completely up to somebody what success looks like. There are other people that are driven past the point of what their income is. For me, I've never considered myself extremely driven until I got into this industry, and I started winning some trips and going on some get-togethers and meeting other people that were doing like just unbelievable stuff. Building agencies that were writing 400 or 500 policies a month repetitively, no problem, where the owner wasn't even selling anymore. Like they had built themselves out of it. And then other people like building recruiting agencies where they, recruit, and good recruiting. Recruiting agencies. We work with some recruiters that when I need something, man, they're Johnny on the spot. Like, so all you people that think FMOs are bad, you just probably got the wrong FMO. I hate that term actually, FMO, because there's FMOs and IMOs and NMOs and recruiters or whatever, MGAs, but they're all the same. If they're helping you and they're giving you a decent deal and they're helping you, they're good. They're good people. You just got to find the ones that are actually going to help you and are realistic and don't set goofy standards and sit back and never talk to you again. Same thing with finding an agent. You want an agent that's there when you need them. So anyway, the standard is different. My measure for success, and it varies. There are times when I think, man, I'm just going to slow down and enjoy the fruits of my labor. And then I'll see somebody out there doing something grand again. And I'm like, no, we're going to step it up. We're going to hit this goal and this goal and this goal. And then that's when, hiring and building and investing comes in, and you get to a point where your income is going up, but you're taking so much of that income and reinvesting it because you have a long-term vision. But that's different. It just depends on different strokes for different folks. I would say that in my mind, the one agent I'm talking about in our group that is making a few $100,000 selling from home with no employees is probably, I would say that's as successful as I am. I think we'd have probably more clients and all that, but shoot, I got employees and expenses and stuff. So it depends on how you measure it, some days I'd swap places with that person because they don't have any kind of real responsibility to anybody other than their clients. And that's cool too. But, shoot, there are people out there that have built agencies and sold them for tens of millions and $40-50 million out there, So there are people that have gotten really rich off of it. And there are people that are just comfortable with the $300,000 a year working from home with no more responsibility. Depends on what you want,
Absolutely. Well, Justin, I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you're really busy and taking this time to really explain your business and why Medicare supplement sales is great. Please provide some links or some where you'd like these viewers to go if they'd like to learn more about working with you or about your Facebook group.
Yeah, definitely. I should have had this link together, but I believe the Facebook group is just facebook.com/Medicare coach. I think that's what it is. And so you can head over there. That's the biggest thing I bring to the table for agents right now is just the engagement. And to be honest, it's not even me anymore. I try to keep the conversation going, but it's the group members. There's some in there that are extremely knowledgeable. There's people that have been in the industry for, decades. There are people that are new. There's people that are mid-range, people doing it over the phone, people doing it in-house, people doing it in their office for walk-ins. They're doing it every way, all day, and they're killing it, and you can learn from them by being in that group. And if you're already in it, please join the group. to share more, because it's not really, I mean, there's one thing I've learned out there. There's a lot of agents, but I don't really ever run into that many of them. So there's a lot of senior citizens out there that need help, and there's room to grow. So join the group and share as much as you learn, and learn as much as you share. Other than that, I mean, all my other sites are consumer facing. So come join the group, and other references and things that we would like to share. I will drop MedicareSupplementUniversity.com. It's a great source. Eric is also an admin and Medicare coach. Is a good friend and partner, and that's a great place to go and start learning Medicare if you get a chance to check that out. But join the group, guys. We'd love to have you.
Justin, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Dave. Talk to you soon.
See you.